That is right, ladies and gentlemen. We don't just turn left in this series, we do turn right as we go for our first road course race and the only road course race of the season here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan's Oval Series, round number 6, and the championship is certainly heating up as we get towards the midway point of the regular season. It's myself, Cameron Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we bring you all of the action tonight for the Sim Race Sweden 200, as we say, around the road course version of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are at round number 6. We've had 5 races of action already over various different types of circuits, and now we come to something a bit different. The drivers are going to have to use the brake pedal and they're going to have to turn right. It is quite a bit different to their normal style of racing, but I'm sure the drivers will work it out. 48 laps of action for you today, and of course this is how our schedule is looking as we work our way towards Daytona round 14 for the end of the regular season. We got a double header at Iowa in a month's time before we obviously round out the year with Charlotte. Then we go into 2025 with 4 rounds to determine the 15 drivers to go into the playoffs, starting at Las Vegas, ending in Phoenix, Arizona on the 8th of May. A lot of racing still to come, and of course it leaves the championship looking in some very interesting situations. Jesper Eriksson, he had some terrible luck in a couple of rounds so far this season, DNFing and from the lead in Bristol due to technical issues and things like that, but he is still leading the championship. He's got a couple of wins to his name, but also leading on the points as well. Linus Broström yet to get a win, but he's still up there, and also Marcus Hogman. Both these two doing really good on the stage points, which is really keeping them up there as well. But look how tight it is in behind. Your last race winner, Dominic Savicki, he's up into 6th place now, gaining 4 positions at the previous round, so it's very tight and hard to call just yet, but it's going to be a load of fun until we work out our champion in some 13 races time. So a lot of racing still to be done, but today of course we go to a road course, and the drivers have some different techniques, some different driving skills going on, and I'm sure there'll be a few different names jumping up towards the top as we do get into the qualifying session. Ewan, I wonder just how the pecking order is going to look when we come and do something a bit different like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much against the form book, really. It's very much against what we're used to seeing here in the Oval Series. We've been around the Oval in the Road Series last week. Now it's time for the road course in the Oval Series this week, and it is an interesting circuit to go to as well here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We were here last week, of course, using the perimeter of this venue. You can see the rectangle on the outside, but we'll be going in the infield here today. And it does mean that things will be very, very different indeed. A lot of braking zones around here, a lot of awkward chicanes, and so the time gaps that we're going to see will be rather large, as we've already seen in the practice session.
Absolutely, it's going to be quite a bit different, and the thing for me about it is not just the fact it's a road course, because most of these drivers, they're going to race on iRacing in the normal series. They're going to know how to turn right. But what is really the interesting fact is how these Xfinity cars work on the road course version, rather compared to the oval. Of course, it's not a GT car. It's not as sophisticated. It's a lot more old school, a lot more rugged. Still plenty of grip and plenty of power though, but you have to have a lot of finesse in a car like this to get it round. And as we come into the qualifying session, look at the gaps up towards the front. Jesper Eriksson, he's already got 8/10 of an advantage over Oliver Bohlin with still 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's a very, very big gap, considering the fact this is a qualifying session. It's a one singular lap. I did notice, though, from practice, now I know practice is a little bit abnormal because people might have only done race runs or whatever, but I think it will be important here today, qualifying. There was about 5 or 6 drivers within a second, maybe even more than that. So this is surprising, I've got to say, from Jesper Eriksson, the fact that he's so far in front. But there are some a bit further down who we haven't seen come over the line yet. For example, last time out's winner, Dominic Savicki in the 6, is still yet to set a time.
Yes, some fast names indeed. And remember, a lot of these drivers do actually do the road course series. So for those new to the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan, we have the Oval Series, although we're racing on a road course today. And in the weeks in between the races, we also have the road course series. We're currently using the IndyCar, so that'll be back next week as well. So do join us then, same time, same place. But a lot of these drivers do both series, so they're constantly jumping in and out of the 2 different styles of car and different styles of racing. But not everyone. Some of them do just like the oval action, a proper NASCAR community here at the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. But we're on board with Forslund, who's had a very interesting season so far. He's been involved in, unfortunately, multiple incidents throughout the opening races, and definitely not as high up in the championship as he would like. He's down in 29th place, but he's definitely a driver who, on his day, can get well up inside the top 10.
Yeah, he was involved in the first caution at Kansas back about 6 weeks ago or so in September, and at the end of September. That was a fairly interrupted start to that race for sure, but I think that the more notable thing for Forslund is that he's been having a very good road season, in my opinion, and there is evidence of it. He's going to move up to second as long as it counts, and it does. He's half a second behind Jesper Eriksson, but yeah, I think that strong road season so far is something to really point to with Evan Forslund, that he might really have a good day.
But he needs to make sure he gets the points in this series as well to lock himself into the playoffs. Remember, it's top 15 that we are looking at, and he's currently 29th. So either getting a win or collecting some good points over the next, 8 rounds to get him inside the playoffs. That is certainly going to be what he is looking out for. Oliver Bohlin, the 72. This is a driver as well who I'm expecting some good things for over the course of this season. Another driver who's really coming up very nicely. 9th place in the standings, has missed a round though, so of course we've had some extra points there. Peter Helmrow jumping up into the top 6.
Yeah, Wallen's actually the best placed of those who have missed a round so far. That is a DNS, by the way. I know that likes of Jesper Eriksson didn't finish one and whatever, but and were delayed, and many have been delayed. But Wallen not starting in one, but still inside the top 10 as things stand. And by the way, all the winners are inside the top 15 at the moment as well. So effectively, after 5 rounds, it's the top 15 in points who'll be going through to the playoffs as things stand. But I'm looking forward to that one race where someone has a very good day indeed, finishes outside the top 15 in the points, but gets that win. That really throws the cat amongst the pigeons and moves the goalposts for those who are looking to qualify on points.
Oh, definitely. If you're one of those easy, comfortable top 10 drivers, even if you don't get a race win, you're kind of looking okay. But if you start having a couple of bad races, you drop down to P13, P14, a couple of different winners start coming in there, that could change things very quickly indeed. As we get a minute and a half remaining, we get Cedric Holmbob. He jumps up inside the top 8 actually. He came second in the previous round, his best finish in this series, and for such a young driver, he's just 15, 16 years old, really doing a good season so far, and managing to be just 7/10 off Savicki, who we're on board with now, who came first and second in that previous race in the 6. He's been looking strong all season, and this is a section of the track actually that I really want to look out for in the race, especially just how you have to flow the car through these corners. But it's certainly very difficult to do so. Look how much he's working the wheel. Yeah, he's having to really correct oversteer here. Not even on the power always. Here it certainly is on the power, but even when you're not on the power, through the likes of turn 8 and 9, you're just coasting. It is really, really difficult, and the rear end wants to slide out. Again, bit of correction before you immediately have to stand on the brakes for turn 12. That'll be another decent chance to overtake, but it might just be a braking zone that you have to get through on your own and maybe not go side by side. We'll see. As now he makes his way through the very difficult traction zone of turn 14. It's such an important one to get right. However, it's so difficult. Look, they're almost turning left here to go right. It's remarkable how much opposite lock you have to employ around this circuit, and it's not slow like it would be in other cars. It's a quick way to do it, and Savicki goes up to second. He does, as Fredriksson jumps up into 4th end. Nicholas Helm in the 55 up to 6th as the clock is just coming down to the end of the session. And Helm is another one of those drivers. He's been up the front a lot of the time, but keeps on getting involved in a couple of incidents, so he's not looking as good in the championship as he would have wanted. He's down in 17th place. He has work to do. As the session comes to an end, it looks like it's going to be Jesper Eriksson getting another pole position. That'll be his 3rd one of the season. And for the driver who missed out on the championship at the final race in Homestead last year, is definitely coming for it this year again. He's got 2 wins. He's had 4 top 5 finishes as well. That is looking very nice indeed. Here is your grid for today's Sim Race Sweden 200. And they've got their driver on the front row. Eriksson and Savicki on that front row, with Forslund and Fredriksson following them in behind. Oliver Wallen and Nicholas Helm, they round out the top 6. Helmrow and Aronson inside your top 8, with Holmbaum and Pepper was inside your top 12. Then Linus Brewster down in 11th place, and Dan Holmer is down in 12th. In 13 places, Yokushu in the independent entry. Then we got MHE Racing's Marcus Hogman. He's having a good season so far. Third place in the championship in P14. Tidemo and Uven inside your top 16. And Lundberg and Motin round out your front 9 rows of the grid. Otto and Ericsson are inside your top 20. Then Gantz, Skogland, Wang and Kenneth Tier round out your front 12 rows. Dahlstrand, Kinnell, Wilderberg, Brostrom, Schott and Pfeffer down obviously quite a few seconds off the qualifying. Let's see what they can do. And Marcus Stiller, once again, Ewan, he's at the back. I think maybe he just doesn't like doing qualifying. I think that's 3 races in a row. He hasn't set a lap and he's starting at the back.
Maybe, but he clearly races well afterwards, does Marcus Stiller. He's finished in exactly the same position twice now in the last couple of weeks. At the last couple of rounds, he's moved up to 11th in the standings. There is the information on the right-hand side of your screen. 48-lap race here. Stage will be on lap 20, and they can make it as well. He said 85% fuel capacity. That will take you past lap 20. So for the first time this season, we won't see any pit stops before the stage break.
Yes, you wouldn't assume so. With fuel going to, we're being told about 25 to 26 laps. It also kind of doesn't make sense necessarily to stop, depending on when the caution is, because of course the tyres are crucial. And actually one thing, this is, that we need to discuss. We're being told there could be even up to 4 seconds a lap of tyre drop-off. 4 seconds. It gets to a point where you might as well pit even if the tyres are still going.
I should put those 4 seconds into context. We were sent a list of lap times from Linus Brostrom, who was doing some practice. Maybe I shouldn't tell it was him, but anyway, done it now. He did a 16 lap stint or so, and you're right, it went to, well, 3.5 seconds probably closer to, but still, that's a lot of time to lose in just 16 laps. When you're considering that they might have to do 26 to make it halfway, let's call it 24, because they want to split it in half probably. They could be up to 4 seconds, as you say, by the time, maybe further by the that time. So do you want to start thinking about splitting this one into thirds? That would be 3 16 lap stints. Maybe that's what he's planning, because he only sent us 16 laps. Not sure if I'm supposed to divulge that kind of information, but it's too late. I don't know that, I'm just guessing, because he sent us 16 laps. And nobody's listening, I imagine, who's in the race. So
yeah, they've already got their plans for the race, I would hope. But that's some very good information there, Ewan, actually. So maybe we are going to see some green flag stops as such before the stage. We'll have to find out. The turn 1 here is always very tricky. Ewan, I'm sure you remember the Cup Series race a couple of years ago, and I can't remember who was it actually that went. Someone went completely off and around the runoff on purpose to avoid the absolute carnage. It's always a tricky one down there in turn 1.
It is. The thing that sticks in my memory more is that video of Carl Larson firing down the inside and being ahead of the apex.
Yes.
And everyone's in F1 saying, well, he's ahead of the apex, so it's okay. But he obviously having a horrendous crash on the inside in towards turn 1. That wasn't on that one. But you're right, it is a really difficult opening braking zone. It always has been, really. Even if you think back to Formula 1 coming here back in the 2000s, always seemed to be some kind of mess into this first couple of corners, because it is just difficult. Even in those smaller cars that they were back then compared to these stock cars here, it was narrow for them, so it's going to be really narrow for these Xfinity cars to make their way through. But everyone will know that, and you'd hope with such a long race that everyone will be calm and not trying to win this race in turn 1.
Absolutely. So 48 laps. It is going to be, sort of an hour and 15 for the green lap runs. We do have a time limit of an hour and 35. So we've got 20 minutes potential for cautions if we do get there. And of course, as ever, we have green-white checkers available, 2 of them at the end, should we get into that situation with drivers fighting for the win in the final couple of laps. That could be good fun. But the drivers work their way through this very interesting final sequence of corners. They do have to wait so they get to the actual straight part for the green flag. So hopefully everyone is through that final section and we can get a nice run. It is going to be round 6 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. We come to the road course for the first time, and it is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to host 48 laps for the Sim Race Sweden 200. We have their own driver, Jesper Eriksson, on that front row of the grid, coming around the final corner as he takes up towards the green flag, and green flag flies, and we are going to see Savicki having a decent start from the outside line. He's actually possibly ahead as we come down towards the first corner. Is getting getting tight in behind with Forsen trying to make some moves. He's got his sister teammates up ahead of them, and it does look like he's going to be the 6 with 3 wide in the background. Those, they fight their way for space. Ericsson comes back though as we come in towards turn 2. He's trying to fight hard, but Saviki's squeezing him out onto the curb. It'll be the inside line though when we get down to turn 4, and the 37 holds the lead.
I think Sawicki knows that getting ahead of Ericsson is really important here, as off goes in the background to Sebastian Tinamo. Marcus Hagman started from the pit lane, by the way, so he's decided that it's better to just stay at the back and work your way through a little bit later on. And by the way, the contact on the front straight was Edwin Forsund getting up to speed, but Oliver Walling got into the back of him and very nearly spun right in front of the field. It was very close, I think, to a real move, as that was a big move down the inside from pit to Helmbro, and it has not worked.
Yeah, I thought when I saw his car jink to the left, I'm like, oh, that may not work. It's very tight on at the corner at the end of the back straight, turn 7, since it was reprofiled. Big curb on the inside, and unfortunately he just wasn't able to get that stop to time. Probably some contact as well. The 77 has gone around as up towards the front. It looks like it's fairly consistent so far. No huge moves. It's just Fredriksson and Forsland swapping around inside the top 5. Everyone else coming through very nicely indeed. It's going to be definitely a bit more of a patient game, although I say that Holmer's trying to go round the outside in turn 13, maybe just trying to get a bit of a run for his tricky final corner.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get the power on here and to get it right as well. That exact balance between sliding, getting out sideways, and of course getting the run as well. Both come hand in hand really as they make their way down in towards turn 1 for the second time. It's been a decent opening lap, I've got to say, compared to what it could have been. Sebastian Tinamo, the only one who went off into the grass through the opening couple of corners. And it looks like it is fairly good indeed. Remember, the stage is a lap 20, and we are expecting fuel to go about 25 laps. So it is going to be, if it's green flag, it is going to be all drivers, you would assume, staying out or trying to, because there is those stage points. 10 for first, down to 1 point for 10th place, which some of these drivers will be holding out for indeed, and just trying to see what is going to happen. Is there going to be any big sends down the inside at the back straight up towards turn number 7? But looks like no, everyone is keeping it a bit calmer on this second lap. They are. And Helmbro is going to be one of those drivers now to really move forward after that mistake a little bit earlier on, alongside the likes of Tinamo and Hagman, who are a long way further behind. Helmbro's still got decent position here. He's on the back of Oscar Moten at the moment, and he's got a decent run out of turn 10, but it's difficult to use it really by the time you get to 12, and he can't on the way in towards turn 12 this occasion. Alexander Houghton, meanwhile, loses a place to Dan Pepels into that position. Pepels now up a couple of places after qualifying in 10th. And the same as his teammate Holmbaum up ahead, also making a couple of places. So the two Sim Race Sweden cars doing a good job as they work their way now onto lap 3. And remember, it is the Sim Race Sweden 200. So big thank you to them for sponsoring this race. And let's see if they can get the W a bit later on. They've got plenty of cars out there with the likes of their academy team as well in the white machines. Look out for them trying to make some moves in this race so far. Coming through this first section of corners, I think we're going to see some drivers struggle keeping the balance on the rear end as we work our way through these long corners as the tyres wear down. Yeah, that's part of the problem of why these tyres have such a drop-off, is that it's really long and painful corners for these tyres. The exit of turn 14 is one we've already spoken about on the way to the front straight. That really rips apart the tyres. These chicanes here go on forever as Cedric Holmbaum is challenging Nicholas Helm. Oh, and into the side of him. Well, that's not going to help tyres or indeed anything else for these two, as Cedric Holmbaum continues or looks to continue his very, very strong start. You don't often see moves in the sort of chicane that is turn 8 and 9 through the S's, but the 10 was trying to make it stick. They obviously had a bit of a side-by-side down at the end of the back straight, and he tried to continue on. This is a good place to dive up the inside of 13, because you really open up this corner. Such a long radius. The apex is quite small itself, but you turn in miles before that. The 10 up the inside of the final corner, maybe. No, just a bit of a different line from the 55, who's losing time now. So it's almost a couple of seconds. They've lost to Oliver Wallen and the Morby Bright Esports car up ahead, so they need to be careful with their battle not to lose that. But is the 10 going to be making a move? He goes to the left, he goes to the right. Is he going to be later on the brakes? No, Helm is still in good position. Yep, still running very well. I wonder if he can finally get those stage points. I've been banging on about it for the last couple of rounds. He still hasn't got any. I hope that today could be the day. He's no longer the best driver in the standings, by the way, without any stage point. That's Patrick Pfeffer, although he's a very long way back from getting any today because he started down in 30th place. On board with Holm. This is how he got such a run in towards turn 8 last lap. We saw, or turn 7 I should say. That's how he got so close when we joined him. For the run through the chicane, he's got very little space on the left-hand side. Helm defended, and he hits his marks, so we'll hold on to 6th place.
Yeah, he just needed a couple more centimetres on that inside to have the confidence to go for it, but probably the wise decision to back out of it. It's turning into a little bit of a tense battle, so don't need to be doing anything too crazy just yet. Different lines being taken from the two drivers as they try and find the best way of their car getting through the corners. You really have to think about it so much. These cars are really, really unsettled, moving around all over the place. Look at Helm sliding as he bounces over that curb. Takes age for the car to cool itself back down. Then the 55 trying to go to a bit more of a midline, but slides that rear end. And the issue is for Holm, he has to get out of the power and doesn't necessarily get the best run. 55 actually pulling away a little bit down the front straight, I should say.
Yeah, that's Helm getting a better exit really onto the front straight. The slipstream could only do so much for Holm. I don't think he's going to be close enough. It'd be quite a rash move down the inside if he were to make one, so he doesn't. Sawicki is very close to Ericsson at the moment, by the way. I said earlier on that if Jesper Ericsson gets into the lead, then he might get away very quickly indeed. Well, that's not quite been proven true yet. Sawicki is really challenging him here as they make their way over the chicane. There they go. He was absolutely right up to the back of him, bumping him almost through in towards turn number 4, for example, the long right-hander after turn 3. But still not close enough to make a move. He's sticking with him well, though.
Yeah, this is what we love to see. The winners of 3 out of the first 5 races of the season, and they are having a big battle up towards the front, maybe looking to be the championship contenders, although we do have 45 points between them. So Sawicki definitely missing out after some issues earlier on in the season, and he actually had didn't he have a back of the grid at one of the races as well, qualifying ban, so that's definitely not helping him. But he's definitely got the speed in that 6 machine, and he's really trying to pull Bright Esports up towards the front, because SimRace Sweden have a bit of a lockout in those front few positions, and he's definitely staying very, very close with Ericsson. But the issue with Ericsson, he's so calm now, Ewan, being out the front. He's been very confident in those positions and often able to hold on.
Yeah, he is, and that's why I mentioned earlier, disrupting him by getting into the lead early would have been a good idea for those reasons. But Sawicki tried, and he couldn't early on. So best bet now is to stay close to him, try and work our way through at some other point, as Holm now is forced to the outside line of Nicholas Helm, who shuts the door in his face there through turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like Helm had to go slightly defensive. He took the mid-line in towards turn 1. Holm stayed on the racing line on the outside. He had the better run through the first corner, but of course the 55 was there able to stop him, and they now send it over the curbs down onto the back straight. And at some point, the 10, I think, needs to get just a little bit more confident on the brakes, and will be able to find a way through. Helm wasn't braking overly late for what we saw the previous onboard shots, so yeah, the 10 maybe needs to just go a little bit more decisive to get that move. But it's so risky. It really is risky. It's so easy to lock up the brakes in these cars. It's not the nicest of conditions, but it's very good once you get in a flow of it.
Yeah, well, you say so. not for me, but anyway, in towards I thought Holm was going to end himself at the wall there, but he just about manages to hold on and scrape along the wall, so he did well there, but that was very close. This is a really big group, by the way, if you're counting from Helm right the way down to maybe behind Josh. Here you can see into maybe Dan Holmer, who's right in the rearview mirror now of Shoot. This is a good 7-car group or so.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. No one's pulling away too much, at least in this mid-pack for the top 10. And this will be important when we get to lap 20 and the stage comes out. And look how much more confident on the brakes he is than he's got Rostrom and Aronson, the 2 teammates of Morby Bright Esports, just up ahead of them. So he can maybe try and make a move at some point. But it's one of those things where you can't just, go around a car as if they're not there. You definitely have to find a way through, and everyone is so on the limits. It's actually quite difficult because even though the cars ahead can easily make mistakes, you can as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes road course racing in stock cars so interesting. I'm glad we've got one. I must say, I don't like the amount that they've got in NASCAR these days, but I like that there is one in this series. 1 in 19 feels about right in the middle of the season, just to have a road course in there, just so that we, covering all bases. I mentioned at the start of the season, the start of the first 6 rounds really doesn't have the same type of track twice, really, other than Kansas's homestead, I suppose, are pretty similar. But there's some real variety in this opening part of the season, so it's great to have a road course here, and a challenging one at that as well here at Indianapolis. There are plenty to choose from now in the NASCAR circuit, but this is one of the more challenging ones, and really one with a lot of tyre drop-off, which must be a factor in this as well, and will be a factor in this race later, of course, because if you're splitting into thirds, you already might be halfway through that first stint.
And I think some of the drivers might be wishing that came a little bit more soon, because looking at the lap times, we're already 1.5, 2 seconds off the pace for some drivers. So the drop-off is already coming in, and that, of course, makes it even harder to keep the car on the track. And Jokke here is really closing in that 34. He's gained a good few car lengths on that previous lap, and he's looking very fast indeed. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he is going to think about a move, but you can just see, look how difficult it is to get on the power there through turns 4, 5 and 6 onto this back straight.
Yeah, without disrespect to Stewart, this is a great place to be for him in the race, but just behind Alexander Albon and Linus Broström, who are both in the top 5 in the points. Those two are both in the top 4. They are very strong drivers indeed, so to be up there is fantastic, as Holmbaum now might just make his move. He dives it quite deep, actually, into turn 10, and so Helm will come straight back through again. Oh no! He's turned straight across the 55 there, I think, Holmbaum, and that has sent Nicholas Helm spinning around.
And after a courageous battle between the two, it's a 55 who spun around. We're going to have to see that again to see just, was that the 10 coming down through turn 11, or was it the 55 trying to stay high, or was it just a bit of both? We'll have to find out. But they were having an amazing battle there through the S's. Looks like they're giving each other just about enough room. The 10 trying to obviously get that position. He went quite deep here on the brakes into turn 10. The 55 goes underneath. What is the situation here? Is it going to be one coming down on the other? Yeah, it is the 10. The 10 is coming in early, but I would have to see it on board from the 55 to see just what his line was, but the 10 definitely looked like he came off the curb maybe a bit earlier than he was required to. Yeah,
I think that's going to be put on the 10 eventually, that one. Holmbaum, I'm afraid, has come across very much so on Helm here. This is the view. Now, watch for the either side of us here. Are we going in a straight line? Yes, if anything, we're going right here on board with Helm, and he's still getting hit from the left. So I think that's going to be placed purely on the 10 here. No malice, I don't think, involved, but you can see that he's actually cleared his wheels as Helm. He's actually passed the front axle, but there's still that little bit of front bumper that Holmbaum quite hasn't, just misjudged slightly, and it's that very front quarter that he's just clipped, and so it's not much contact, but it's definitely Holmbaum's fault, and he'll probably get a penalty for that, I would have thought.
Yeah, so that puts Helm down in 15th place. Not ideal situation. He's lost quite a few positions, and with how difficult it's been to overtake so far, he's going to have to do something on the strategy to try and get past. And what it has done after that battle is leave a big 5-second gap between Bohlin and Holmbaum for P5, P6. So that's really going to make it difficult for the cars behind. I think that was Robert Ericsson, the 35, just completely missing the braking zone there. The 6 has a late dive down in towards the first corner. They do have Fredriksson actually catching them up. So is the 37 of Ericsson having some difficulties out the front, because the 6 is always pushing him through turn 3 there. He slides down the inside, but I think Ericsson can defend. Maybe not. I don't think he's got any tyres left, and the 6 is going to go through onto the lead of the race. No, he doesn't, as they slide through the chicane.
Wow, Fredriksson's going to have a mighty run now. That was all arms and elbows for everybody through the chicane, and Ericsson's going to cover him off. He's going to box Fredriksson in effectively because he could have lost the lead there. As Fredriksson now forced out on the outside, Sawicki says, absolutely not. I'm trying to get past your teammate here, and he's got a great chance of doing so. I'd be surprised, by the way, if Ericsson's struggling for tyre life already. If he is, he's in huge trouble. We're nowhere near the quarter point of this race, unless he... we're about at the quarter point, I should say. We're nowhere near the third point of this race, so unless he wants to split this race into a 3-stop for Ericsson, he's in huge trouble. Outside for Sawicki, and he's been carted off the road there by Jesper Ericsson.
And the 37's really struggling here. Look at the 6. He's so much faster, but he's been held up. And the 112 of Fredriksson is going to get through. So Iki's going to be down into 3rd place as they come through this final corner. Actually, haven't said that. The 6 is holding on that outside line. No, he does have to fall through into 3rd place. Was that a bit of team play by Ericsson to get his teammate through? Or is he really just struggling? Let's see what his lap time is going to be. I mean, that was a 1 minute 36. His best lap of the race is a 1:31. So unless he's had 5 seconds off, I think there was something else going on there, but let's see how this one works. He seems to be going a bit better so far.
Well, it was the battling, wasn't it, that's cost him so much time there. The fighting through the chicane, don't underestimate how much time that will cost you. This is such a one-line circuit in a sense, not in the sense of battling. You can get alongside, as we've just seen, but you lose so much time when you're not on the line. It's even more pronounced in stock car racing around this circuit. So they've got to be really wary of that. Evan Forsland gained 1.2 seconds, for example, on Ericsson last time round, 1.8 on Sawicki. He's coming as well here, is Evan Forsland, because of the fighting. And if Ericsson continues to hold on to the lead and he continues to slip and slide with no tyres left, then they'll all be catching up very shortly.
Although he looks good on this lap, I think. I don't know, I just read it as maybe he was trying to help Fredriksson get through on the 6, and it has worked perfectly for the Sim Race Sweden cars as they have their 1-2 position. That was a little bit wide from Ericsson. I think he just chirped the inside tyre a little bit as he was trying to obviously brake. Maybe not, actually. I say that, he's going very slowly now. Maybe it is actually just slowly. He's struggling on the tyres. That'd be very interesting. The 112 going from 3rd to potentially 1st place here.
I'd be very surprised if Ericsson did all that to get Fredriksson into the 2nd place, because they lost time on the rest of the top 18 last time round. So surely this is just trouble for Ericsson. Fredriksson goes down the inside. The 37's always going to let him have that one. It's just a ploy really to make sure Sawicki stays behind. And now continually Ericsson will defend from the 6. Sawicki's got to try and work her way through here, because otherwise Fredriksson's going to be allowed up the road.
And this is a bit of trouble because we still have 8 laps until the stage. And if it stays green, I doubt, even with the drop-off, I doubt he's going to pit, because he's going to want to try and keep any sort of stage points that he can get. So this is potential trouble here for the 37, your pole sitter, as Fredriksson gets through 3 people. Because, of course, he got Forsen at the start, and now he's got these 2 drivers to get himself up into the 1st position. The 6 is coming now. Of Sawicki trying to get past the 37, and needs to try and obviously get through a little bit more cleanly this time.
Yeah, certainly does, and just get through at all. I think, to be honest, I think Ericsson was the one who was pushing Sawicki off the road there, down here into turn 12 last time round, and yeah, that was a bit rude really to cart him off into the grass. Now, does he pit here, Ericsson? No, this is a quarter of the race complete now, by the way. So if anyone wants to make it into a 3-stop race, you come in now. But it's such a humongously long pit lane. I think it would just cost you way too much time. I'd be surprised, though, if he tries to continue to halfway.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the stage. We're told about 45 seconds, which would put him in, 25th, 26th place, something like that. So he's not going to want to lose that track position at this time. Although sometimes you do have to play the long game, because the win at the end of the day can be so crucial as well. As we're on to lap 13 of 48 here. And Sawicki possibly coulda, shoulda, woulda been in the race lead, but instead he is in 3rd place, and he's still trying to find a way through Ericsson. You can just see on the exit the corners every now and again. Ericsson just loses that maybe half a car length that's so important, but the 6 can't find the momentum just now.
No, Just not at the moment. They have got into line again, which is increasing their margin back to Forsund again. It did come down to as low as 1.9, 1.8 seconds earlier on, but Forsund is losing time again here to this top three as they've got themselves sorted out. Jesper Eriksson has picked up his pace as well. He's behaving a bit oddly at the moment, I've got to be honest, or his tyres certainly are, because he looked all at sea a few moments ago. Now he looks okay again.
As we saw a move for Dan Holmer, I believe it was, getting past Yokishu up inside the top 10. So the 79 is now through. So that was a little bit wide for Svenska in the final corner. But yeah, there's 79 as a 34 sliding around there through the exit of 10. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make any sort of progress on Broström and Eriksson. So now we have the ex-teammate of Broström, actually, the 79, chasing him down. Of course, a winner earlier this season at Bristol, locking himself into the playoffs nice and early doors, and he can relax for the end of the regular season. But there it is, P10 for now.
Yeah, and doing well on points as well. He's not even the last placed of the winning drivers. He's ahead of Dominik Sawicki. He's 5th place in the overall point standings. So he's doing a good job, is Dan Holmer, so far this season. And as you say, he is into the playoffs. A long time for him to ponder how he's going to get himself through the round of 15, of course. And he can do that by getting some playoff points as well, by even winning another race or indeed a stage for the first time this season. So that will be the main aim now, just get some playoff points and see if that can just push you along, head you along towards a more likely transfer through the round of 15.
Absolutely, as we have a change for the lead. Eriksson has got back through, so he's found a bit of time. And actually, I say that Fredriksson might be going down to 3rd place. No, he has a bit of a hip check there with the 6 coming through turn 10, and that loses the 6 even more time. He's really struggling to get past these cars. And interesting, though, that the sim race speeding cars swap around once more. We were worried about Eriksson maybe slowing down, maybe struggling a bit, but this is maybe coming back to his favours. In the background, Forsund goes off. He goes way too deep. He's going to lose that position to Oliver Bohlin. So the Morby Bright Esports 72 gets up there. This is why, though, actually, Fredriksson, he just went too deep. He went into the grass. Yes,
an unforced error. Eriksson there didn't really want to go through, I don't think, but has sort of been given a opportunity that was too good to turn down, and Fredriksson there shoulder barging Dominik Sawicki very much out of the way in towards turn 10. I've got to say he's been bullied around a little bit by these Sim Race Sweden drivers, is Dominik Sawicki, and so this is proving to be very tricky as to how he's going to overhaul them both.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit cheeky from Eriksson. You could see he definitely didn't go full speed between turns 9 and 10, just boxing Bohlin in, allowing Fredriksson to fill that gap. If he had gone full speed, so would have Sawicki, and then Fredriksson wouldn't have been able to hold that position. So bit of team play there to make sure they can keep in that 1-2 position. But Sawicki does have a teammate coming up behind him. Oliver Wallen's got up into 4th, as we mentioned on the previous lap, and maybe the 2 Bright Esports teammates can sort of find a way to challenge Sim Race Sweden at the front.
A little bit offline briefly for Bohlin, but he's back on again, and Forsund continues to try and chase him down. Those 2 are letting the front 3 get away all of a sudden again here. So came down below 2 seconds, the gap to the lead between the gap between 1st and 4th, I should say, came down to just less than 2 seconds at this time last lap before Forsund went off and these 2 fought again. They're going to need another fight from the front 3 leaders to get back on terms, but a very interesting lap coming next time round. That'll be the end of lap 16 and the 1/3 mark through this race. Is anybody going to make it a 2-stop race?
I don't know, because I guess there'll always be people who stay out for the stage, but if you stay out and you lose 3 seconds, 4 seconds a lap times 3 times 4, maybe even 5 laps, that's a lot. Yeah. So yeah, or 8, yeah, if you want to look at I was thinking about just getting to the stage, but you mean to get to about half race distance. Yeah, that's a lot of time. That is a lot of time. And then if you think about that at the end of the race as well, you're definitely going to be losing that pit stop, I think, over the race. So it's an interesting one as we see a huge battle at the front. So not the front, at the back end of the top 20. That is Motin going from the left to the right, but not able to make the move. I wonder if there was some previous to that, why we're seeing a bit of weaving.
Not sure though, because Oscar Moten has very much stayed around this point in the order for some time now. Tommy Otto's the one just ahead of him, Robert Eriksson next, and then Eric Lundberg, who is currently holding on to 15th position. But yeah, I just wonder whether some of those in the top 10, especially those who are already qualified for the playoffs, think, well, I don't need stage points. I'm not racing for points. I get it for Fredriksson. He probably needs points. Bohlin, but for Eriksson and Sawicki don't need points. They just need wins, I would imagine, to get themselves even more playoff points. I suppose you're not going to get the stage win if you pit now as well, so they stay out. But it's surprising. It would be surprising to me that nobody would go for this and come in pit lane. We'll see, of course, but it looks like the front 5 have stayed out. It's just about doing the maths, isn't it? How much time are you going to lose? And it is a very long pit lane.
Yeah, it's one of those things, if everyone stays out, it kind of makes sense to stay out as well. But as soon as someone goes through the pit lane, it'll open the floodgates, I think. So it's a bit of a follow the sheep situation, potentially, but let's see how that one works out. So 37 slides on the exit of 4. His teammate Fredriksson pushing him through the chicane. They're dropping Sawicki at this moment, who's gone off by a second in behind. They've also dropped Forsland as well. Sorry, not Forsland, Oliver Wallen as well, as in they're not keeping up. So this is turning into a bit of a two-way battle at the front. I say that though, Sawicki very strong on the brakes and he's coming back at them.
He is. Just wonder whether he's gone back and regrouping for a moment here, letting these two squabble over the front 2 positions on their own. Oliver Wallen is definitely catching these as well now, as Forsland begins to slide down the order, or certainly lose time in the last couple of laps. Down towards turn 12 for these 3. Eriksson still leading ahead of Fredriksson and Sawicki. Does anybody elect to go in this time round? I wonder. They are staying out. So now that they're so close to the stage, I would imagine they will stay out for the stage points now. But Sawicki especially needs to get a move on if he wants to win the stage.
Certainly does, but he's been stuck in this position for a long time now, as we are going to see a swap at the front. The 2 SimRace Sweden cars go side by side as we come down the front stretch here. It's going to be Oscar Fredriksson in the 112 to the inside. No defense from Eriksson, who makes sure he holds on to that second place because Sawicki is caught up to them. I think he is probably slightly faster of these drivers, and he's almost pushing the 37 through turn 2 there, but this just hasn't found his way past, and he's really losing out from that. Maybe if he got into the lead, he could pull away, but he just hasn't been able to get through. As he come through the chicane once more, is there going to be any sort of run from the 6? No, actually Eriksson got a good launch that time.
Depends if you think there's team play going on here, I think, between Eriksson and Fredriksson, because Fredriksson's down in 13th in the points at the moment. If we were really thinking about making the playoffs, he'd be only 5 points above the cut line at the moment, Fredriksson. He needs every point he can get right now. Eriksson certainly doesn't, so I wonder whether these two are just helping one another, or more accurately, helping Oscar Fredriksson bank 10 points here.
As we see a move from the 24, he gets past Dan Paples. While we come back to this, all contact is made. The 37 and the 6, they both go into the wall. Huge contact is made. Oliver Wallen gets involved. Are we going to stay under green? Is a caution going to come out? The 6 already goes back. The meatball flag comes out. And on lap 18, that is a huge change in this race. Eriksson, who was leading at the front from pole position, his teammate Fredriksson got into the lead. But we're also seeing, of course, Wallen not able to continue after that big impact in the 3rd car.
Yeah, somewhat surprising there was no caution for that. That was a very big crash indeed between 2 surely championship rivals. Sawicki just clips Eriksson, who then get loose, and then they slide both into the wall. Of course, Wallen got absolutely clattered there, and so that's why he wasn't able to continue on it. But he can't even turn right here. I think he was trying to get in the pit lane, but he can't even turn right, so that'll be the end of him as well. That changes the complex of this top 5 completely and takes, as I say, 2 potential championship rivals out of it, giving them a bit of bad blood as well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Eriksson, I think that confirms that he was struggling with the tyres. He just couldn't keep as much on the throttle through the fast turn 11 corner as Sawicki behind obviously caught him out. We saw this multiple times actually, even in turn 2 on that same lap. The number 6 was pushing the 37. Unfortunately, Ericsson really was struggling with the tyres there, and difficult one to call, I guess. As that is way too wide for the 24. Pables just squeezes back through. There's the 71 of Brewstermaster sitting behind, but the drivers, they're really getting to that moment now, Ewan, where they're calling, they're waiting for the pit stop, but they've got to go a little bit further.
They do. End of the next lap, and the points will be allocated, but some drivers are starting to really struggle here in their tyres. And by the way, if they're going to go only one stop here today, then they need to go a further 4 laps from the stage break. So they can't go much further than that, of course, because the fuel won't take them that far. However, I just wonder whether we are going to see some 2 stops here. People are waiting definitely, though, for some of these stage points. Certainly giving Oscar Fredriksson the big lead now, and surely he's going to win his first stage of the season. And
that's definitely a big moment. And I actually I quite like this being the 48 laps rather than maybe the 50. That could be a bit more logical, being 4 kilometers for the track length. But what it means is, as you say, Ewan, it kind of invites the 1 stop to still be there. If it was a bit longer, everyone would just go for the 2 stop because it'd be a bit too tight on the field, whereas now they can get to that 1 stop, and now they're going to have to stay out. It is lap 20 though, and there's just a couple more kilometers for Fredriksson to hold on to this stage victory.
Yeah, I actually think if this was the 51 laps, that would bring us to 200 kilometres. I know it's the Sim Race Sweden 200, but it's not quite 200 kilometres, about 188. I think there would be more 2 stopping actually if it was those 3 laps longer. It would have been initially 51 laps, of course. I think it would have been a little bit more possible, but as of right now, we've not seen anybody come in for an early stop as far as I can see here. Magnus Högberg started from the pit lane, but that doesn't really count. I thought Thomas Kinnell had been in, but actually he was just getting lapped on merit, so he's already a lap down. But we haven't seen anybody pit yet as Fredriksson comes around the final corner to win the stage.
He certainly does. The 112 started down in 4th place. He got Forsen into turn 1, and then he managed to get past Savicki and Ericsson. And with their crash in behind, that was an easy win in the end. The stage goes to Fredriksson, and of course the points go to the top 10. It looks like it's going to be Peter Helmbro getting that final point. Of course, he lost out after a spin earlier on, but he's still going to get to that final stage point as we remain under green flag racing. We're expecting pit stops around lap 25, so we still have a few more, but the drivers are already struggling. We're seeing times now 4 seconds a lap off their best times.
Yeah, it's a long way, and as you said, what would it be, about 3 times 8, I suppose, for the 2 stop versus the 1 stop? That's 25 seconds gained. You could, in theory, do that twice, because obviously you're pitting twice, so you'll have fresher tyres twice. I think you could gain those 45 seconds it would cost you to pit, but clearly nobody else does, other than Kenneth Tier, who's in now, but nobody else really believes in this at the moment, and so it is going to be a 1-stop consensus around the field. I would have liked to see someone out of the top 10 pitting a little bit earlier, actually, just to roll the dice. You mentioned if everybody's doing it, then you might as well, but I actually don't agree if you're outside the top 10. There's no point following the top 10 doing exactly the same thing they are. Where are you going to gain the time? I wouldn't imagine you're going to get any quicker in the second half of the race compared to what you were in the first, so you might as well do something different. Try and have a quicker strategy. That might get you ahead of a few drivers and get you a better finish.
Yeah, I guess it's got to that point in the race, though, when no one's going to 2-stop from here. They're all going to confirm the 1-stop. So that has then obviously led them, now they need to get to lap 25 to be able to even get to the end as well. So that's the issue that they are now. I guess they could stop a little bit earlier, but maybe 1 lap or 2 laps earlier than that, maybe lap 23. Absolutely pushing it, but let's see how it goes. This is now, of course, lap 22. This is basically the earliest you would think about stopping to get to the end, but then you're going to be very slow at the end of the race. So there's a bit of a mix-up. Do you want to get the undercut now, or do you want to be a bit faster at the end? As we're already seeing Dan Babel's in 4th place, sliding through every corner as he goes onto the grass a little bit. He's so wide in turn 4. Aronson actually kind of follows him in sympathy. The 71 keeps on the racing line, but he's really struggling.
Yeah, very much so, and he's going to get the run here. Is Linus Broström right on the back of Ericsson. I think Dan Peppels has maybe gone out a bit hard, and he's going to be under pressure here for 4th place. Here goes Ericsson, he breaks late. Alongside he gets, can he give the room? Oh, just about, and there's not much room in towards turn 7, but he just about manages it. Peppels hangs on ahead of Ericsson again.
Oh, this is a lovely battle, and the 71 is getting close behind as well. Oh wow, these tyres are really causing some issues for them today, and look at the difference already. Just a couple of corners later, about 5 car lengths between them, as we are seeing the 24 being very slow up the inside there, holding up his sister teammate there with the Morby Bright Sports of Linus Broström coming through. Is there going to be anyone in the pit lane? Yes, Linus decides not to be held up anymore. More pitters actually up ahead, so it's definitely that time of asking for quite a few of these drivers as they come down pit road. Quite a difficult pit entry to get into actually as well, as we're seeing a few drivers come down. We'll just try and work out exactly who that is.
It was Kenneth Tier again. So Kenneth Tier had already made a stop. He's in again. I wonder what that is all about, because that's his 2nd stop in as many moments. Or was it Oliver Bohlin? I think it was Kenneth Tier. Bohlin is back in again, by the way. I think he must have done the required repairs and then done a lap and thought, actually, I'd probably need the optionals as well, so he's back in again. Ericsson still getting his repairs done. Sawicki is officially retired, as Dan Peppels has a huge slide. Ericsson straight through.
Yes, no tyres left on the 329, and he's going to have to come in. Well, obviously everyone is going to have to come in at some point, but he's going to have to come in sooner rather than later, I would assume. And it is really now. So between now and lap 26, we're really expecting everyone to come in, but the lap here and there could be quite big. The undercut might be huge. I mean, if you're losing 3-4 seconds a lap, now just 1 lap and you're going to be 2-3 corners up the road is going to make a big difference. Although having said that, some of these gaps have got a little bit big. For instance, Fredriksson, he could have a couple of laps advantage for Forsland and he still won't get undercut.
Yeah, I think Peppels might as well come in now and bite the bullet. He will have to take a lot more care with his tyres 2nd time round as the 14 goes for a spin. That's Thomas Kinnell, who's been a lap down, and so's Ericsson in as well now. I guess they're responding to Broström, but there's almost no point responding to him. I would have been in if I was Peppels, maybe not Ericsson, but maybe he was expecting Peppels to come in, and so he did as well, covering off that undercut maybe. But the top 2 stay out, so does Dan Holmer, who carries on.
So Holmbaum, Ericsson, Peppels and Yokashu, they're all in the pit lane now. Lap 24, so this is just 1 lap shy of the halfway mark. The end of lap 24 is the halfway mark. And they are coming in for another run of tyres to the end. Green flag all the way, stage complete. It is a race to the end. And these drivers trying to get, 1 or 2 laps undercut on those. If I haven't said that, more drivers in. Helmbro, Helm, Lundberg, Auto, 8 drivers in pit road.
Yep, this is a bit busier actually, the lap before halfway than I was expecting it to be. But maybe some of these drivers, especially towards the back, are actually expecting to finish a lap down, so they might actually be splitting this better for them anyway. You can see some of them arriving into the picture now. Everybody got to be careful of rejoining and getting back into pit lane. Helm there very nearly getting into the back of one of the drivers who was making their way back out onto the circuit again as they make their way on the inside of turn number 1 now. Who are we waiting for? Pretty much the top 8, and then a few others who were a bit further behind. But Holmbaum is the best placed of those who has stopped. He's in 11th place.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look where Broström is. I think he's quite far up the road from Ericsson and Peppels from just that 1 lap undercut. As here's the 10 who was looking so strong in that previous race, and he's now sliding it down the inside of a Håkan shot there. Of course, Håkan not making a pit stop just yet in that 101 machine, and the 10 is already doing so. Fredriksson stays out, but Forsland and Holmer come in behind. So I think this is Fredriksson. He's just eating up that time gap, letting them get a bit of an undercut, but making sure he stays in the lead, and he'll have 1-2 lap fresher tyres at the end.
However, he's got to be careful. If he stays out for 3 laps, he'll lose the lead. And I'm not exaggerating. It really is that severe when you stay out on the old tyres compared to the real fresh ones. So Fredriksson's got to be a little bit careful of that, but I'm sure he will. As Christian Gantz carries on, by the way, he's also going to go foot past the halfway mark with Jonas Skoglund as well. Where's Linus Broström going to be? He's 1.6 seconds behind Cedric Holmbom as we were just watching him. He is ahead, importantly, of Aronson and Peppels by some way. It looks like Holmbom may even be challenging Forsland as well here. This is the battle for second place, and Holmbom has got it.
Certainly has. This has worked out great for the number 10 machine, as our drivers there on pit exit trying to slide their way through. And I mean, this is just showing you how much the tyres really make a difference around here. The 71 misses that apex to turn 4. He's now got Forsland coming in behind him. And just though the 1 or 2 laps is making a huge difference around here today. And the 10 is looking great for a good result as Fredriksson does finally come in. Let's see what his lead is going to be. It was about 10 seconds or so before the pit stops. Let's see just how much that's been cut.
Yeah, this is the right call, I think. It's going to be relatively close between him and Holmbom, because Holmbom came out how many seconds ahead of Forsland? Just a few seconds ahead. So the gap was 10, you're right, but take the 3 away because Holmbom is a little bit closer, and there's been an extra lap here. So I reckon it could be as low as 3 seconds, actually, this lead for Fredriksson, depending on how long the stop is here, how it goes, as Forsland gets ahead of Linus Broström. Forsland not wasting any time in getting back into second place, or at least trying to.
Yeah, this is working nicely for him. So Broström with the lap or 2 earlier, how much is that actually going to hinder him as we work our way through the stint? Already lost a couple of places, 1 in the strategy, 1 on the road. Decent gap behind though, actually, at this point in the race to Aronson, as Gantz does finally come down pit road. So that just leaves Skoglund shot out there on the track, and Dahlstrand as well, and even Pfeffer a little bit further down. So basically all the drivers making their stops. We were told 26 was the longest on the fuel. So at the end of this lap, I expect all of those to come in.
Yeah, I've underestimated the speed of Fredriksson quite badly, actually. He's got 8 seconds over Cedric Holmbom. As he gets up to speed, it will just dip below that. But yeah, that's a great in-lap from the 112. A great few laps, actually, from Fredriksson. He's given himself that extra couple of laps life in his tyres. He is surely cruising to a win here. He'll be praying there's no cautions.
Absolutely. He just needs to keep it on the track and keep those tyres in check. He's got a lovely lead. As you say, about 8 seconds. Skoglund will pit at the end of this lap. So this is looking nice for him. He's been gifted an awesome position, especially with Ericsson Sviki there out of the race. So he doesn't have some fast championship contenders around him. And this is great for Fredriksson. Really not necessarily needing a win, but as you mentioned earlier, Ewan, he is 13th in the standings, and this could really help him and lock him into that round of 15 playoffs.
Yeah, as you say, it's not about needing a win, but it is about reducing stress in the final rounds of the season. If he can get this win here, Dan Holmer has already done that. He's back ahead of Hacken-Schott now into the top 10 as Jonas Skoglund comes into pit lane, and Schott does as well. Now we've got very few drivers still yet to come in now. So yeah, it would be a huge big thing for Oscar Fredriksson. So currently 5 points above the cut line, as I say. He's won the stage, so he'll be a lot further ahead now, especially of Kenneth Tier and those who didn't score any points. So he should be about 15 ahead of the cut line as of right now. But it won't matter if he goes on to win this race, which he may well do.
And in fact, it doesn't. Yeah, he hasn't had any wins thus far. So it would be his first victory as well in the championship. So this is working out to be a very nice day for him so far, if he can hold it onto the track and try and obviously try and do just a pretty decent job in the second half of the race. Is talking of doing a decent job. The 10 is not there at the end of the back straight, just going a bit deep, and Forsland is looking good to get up into second place.
He is looking very good here. Holmbom was quicker in the first stint than a lot of the drivers that he was stuck behind, actually. So I do get the ploy from him to pit slightly earlier and get that track position. I think this will pay off in the long run, but I'm not sure he will finish ahead of Edvin Forsland here, who was pretty dominantly in second place. He was nowhere near Fredriksson really, but he was pretty dominantly in second place. And so the quicker he can work this move, the quicker he can get away, and the better for him as well, because Linus Broström is coming too.
Certainly is, as we have two completely different lines through turn 14. The 27 gets on the power just that little bit earlier. He has the momentum down the front straight. It's a really long run down towards the first braking zone, but it looks like he's got that move. The 10 definitely not on the limit of the brakes, as Bohlin will jump up into second place. A driver who could also do with a great result today, and this is looking to be a nice evening for the 27 machine. And also SimRace Sweden in their own race, the SimRaceSweden.com 200, and they are locking out the top 3 with their various different teams in this category.
Yeah, it's a good race for them so far, but how often do we say that? They are so often so strong, and so that's a very common theme as we make our way in towards turn number 7. Forza now will have a pretty important couple of laps just to get ahead of Helmut, but it shouldn't be too difficult for him. You'd imagine he will be able to get away and bank some very good, solid second place points, both at the stage and at the end of the day as well. Forza has not been at very many of the races so far this season. Well, he said he missed one, but he's not been at his best, I should say, for many of the races this season. This could really jump him up, though, into that top 20 or so when you're starting to think about being around the cut-off line.
Absolutely, and as we get to lap 28, there's 20 laps remaining in this race, and of course we want to see how that one finished. So for now, let's get some messages from our partners, and we'll be back with you to take you through the final laps of this race. And we're back to the road course. It is round 6 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan. It is the SimRace Sweden 200. Myself, Cameron Roger, Yuna Leary alongside me in the commentary box, and Hugo Louise on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast as we bring you through the final 18 laps here. And we've had the pit stops. We have been green flag all the way despite a couple of big crashes, and we continue on with this race. The 24 struggling there, coming through turns 13, and might allow Dan Paples in the 329 to get the run. Maybe not, as he couldn't get on the power and he loses the momentum.
Yeah, that was a little bit too early on the power just scraping along the wall on the left-hand side there. And I really think Pebbles has got to be careful on these tyres. We saw how he'd evidently gone too hard early on the tyres first time round. I'm worrying slightly that he's doing it again here based on the onboard that we're getting at the moment. He is pushing hard. Now, whether he was pushing even harder in the first stint, and this is actually him going a little bit more conservatively, I don't know, but I'm concerned he is going to make the same mistake that he did in the first stint.
Yes, potentially indeed. It's been a tricky one out there for the drivers, keeping control of this car. Of course, it does do road course racing, as a spec for that, but it's not necessarily made and designed for road course racing. It's very much agricultural almost. It's not a finely tuned machine. Very tricky to get it around these corners and keep the balance. We've got a lot of long corners, a lot of slow corners as well, actually, around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, and it's been a tough one so far. So just to run you down a little bit, Fredriksson, he leads by 9 seconds as he's been up the front for all of today. Ericsson and Savicki had a big crash as they were batting for second and third place. That has left a big gap in behind. That Forsen has filled. He's got himself up into second place with Holmbom in behind. Linus Broström is started around 10th place on the grid, and he's got himself up into 4th, so that's some good moves for him so far, with his teammate Ericsson in behind with this battle for Dan Papos. Yokoshui's had a quiet day in 7th place. Dan Holmer having a solid round there up in P8, and Helmbro, they've just sat also fairly quietly in P9 and 10, but they are some way off getting any further positions. 10, no, even more than that, 14 seconds between Holmer and Helm.
It's a very large gap, considering that's 2 drivers inside the top 10. But either way, that's the way that road course racing goes, especially when there are no cautions. The biggest crash of the day coming on lap 18, of course, earlier on between 2 race favourites, Dominic Sawicki and Jesper Eriksson. Oliver Bohlin, who was also running inside the top 5, got caught up, but there was no caution for that. You get the feeling that if there isn't one for that kind of crash, then there probably won't be one during this race. Now, it's, of course, I guess the cautions in road course racing is always used a little bit differently to what it is in the oval races, so I'd be willing to bet that we're going to go caution-free now, and that, of course, will be a record in this season, unsurprisingly, perhaps, and one that may not be broken as well.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's been an interesting season, hasn't it, Ewan, for those cautions. Often we get some very early cautions in the oval races, and then maybe we get long green flag runs later on. But today we've got past that stage as well. There's still 15 laps to go, boys. Keep those tyres in check. But yeah, we certainly end up getting some long green flag runs once the races calm down like this.
We certainly do. You can tell me whether you believe this or not. But it is true. The longest opening green flag run of the day was at Talladega, which feels somewhat odd, but I guess it works because everyone's trying to stay out of trouble early on, and then they'll think about what they're going to do for the last part of the race. And then there were a few more cautions, of course, in the last 60 laps or so. There were about 3 cautions, so it did get a little bit more chaotic after that. But yeah, we don't often see very long green flag runs. Just 3 laps at Auto Club Speedway, for example. Very few at Bristol, but that was very much the case at that race. Kansas, we only made it maybe, I don't know, 8-9 laps or something like that. At Homestead, we didn't even make it a single lap 2 weeks ago. So it has been a weird theme of this season. But this has been obviously a race that we're going to have with no cautions, it seems. And one of the calmest opening laps that we've seen, whether on an oval or a road course. This has been very calm indeed.
Yeah, everyone was very nicely behaved in general, and so far, actually, I guess it's because of the trickiness, Ewan, to get side-by-side, because when we have seen the side-by-side moments, it has been very clumsy in some cases with drivers, as you see there with Yokoshu in the 34, just fishtailing coming out of turn 10, and it has been a very tricky one for these drivers to get a handle of the car. Of course, fixed setup as well, so nothing that they can do in that regard. It's all driving style. as you see two completely different lines coming through the final corner. Jocke trying to open up that final corner a little bit to get on the power, but still huge slide on the 34 machine. And here comes Dan Holmer just to power his way past. The 34 was basically wheel spinning the whole of that final corner. Who's going to be later on the brakes though? Looks like Jocke has actually got some speed back under the brakes. The 79 is going to have to go all the way around the outside. It'll be the inside for turn 2. Jocke Schue in the 34 still has the high line though as we come through turn 3.
Yeah, it's not only bad for you run to the front straight, but that can't be any good for Jocke Schue's tyres, you wouldn't have thought. Here goes Holmer around the outside through turns 3 and 4. He should have his nose ahead by the chicane, but no. Schue gets a good run there, pretty much level. And Schue, oh, contact! Good save from Holmer. It's a bit of a miracle they both made it through there.
Yeah, he's lucky the contact was more on his passenger door rather than on the rear bumper. If it was the rear bumper, we would have been seeing a spinning car like we've seen a couple of times with Holmbaum and even with Ericsson a little bit earlier as well. So definitely slight luck there, but they were pushing it, trying to go side by side in a very much one-line corner. The battle continues on, though, as they work their way through turn 11. So Schue's not really given up with this just yet. As through turn 11, he's still sliding. That car's always got some yaw in it, it seems. Down into the braking zone at 12. He goes up the inside. He locks the inside wheel. He keeps it on the track as this battle goes and continues for a whole lap around Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that fighting this hard right now is the best idea, to be honest with you. Jocke Schue locking the inside right tyre now to go along with his slides on the traction zones as well. I'm not convinced that this is the way to go for the 34, but there you go. He wanted to hold on to 7th place. Now he won't. Now, though, I would just, save the tyres for a little bit here. Maybe he can come back later on if there are still positions to be had later, but don't go pushing too hard so that you fall off a cliff and get caught by Helm, because if you just keep calm now, you've got a top 8 finish surely in the bag.
Absolutely, as we're seeing a little bit side by side there. Dan Peebles and Ericsson trying to also go side by side through the chicane. Looks like the 24 has come out on top of that battle for now, but Peebles trying to regain that position up into the P5 it would be. As we're also seeing Jocke trying to hold on to the back of Dan Holmer, who, to be honest, with their battles, I wonder if they're going to be able to catch up. So Peebles just ahead is about 4 seconds is the gap, but looking at the previous laps, they're basically identical on pace. A couple of tenths here, a couple of tenths there. So everyone is doing fairly good times. Having said that, Fredriksson, who's leading the race, he was a second a lap quicker than everyone on that previous lap. He's absolutely romping away with it.
Yeah, that is very believable as well, isn't it, really, given the situation he's in. It just makes me wonder, really, what would have happened if Ericsson, Sawicki and Bohlin were still in the race. I think this would at least be a lot closer. So, yeah, a shame, really, that they're not in the race anymore, but nothing away from Fredriksson, take nothing away from Oscar Fredriksson. He has been very, very strong today indeed, and looks like he's going to cruise to a pretty easy victory. Whether he's... Well, he doesn't really need to be a second a lap ahead of the rest, does he? Just looks like he's going to be bringing it home from here.
I am going to say that the 34 isn't going to make it to the end of this race at this rate. He is massively over pushing those rear tyres, and it's one of those things, it doesn't always come back. It's sort of a snowball effect, because they start getting too hot, so then they have less grip, and then you slide more, and then of course sliding more means you get even more hot and then have even less grip. So it gets worse and worse and worse. So he just needs to calm down the rear end and just accept that he's got a 12-13 second gap behind. And if he calms down, then that is basically a comfortable P8 in this race. If he loses, less than what's that, about 7-8 tenths a lap to Nicholas Helm in behind. So maybe conceding defeat will actually be the better way there. But we'll have to find out what happens, because the cars up ahead, they're not too far away, and I guess that's what he's seeing and what he's hoping he can get involved with later in the race.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is best to tell him to concede right now. But have you ever told a racing driver to concede before? Or try to.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can do, but it's not going to end very well.
Well, they're just not going to listen. I don't know. You're right, it would be the smarter thing to do, but whether he decides to do that or not, I'm not entirely sure. As we rejoin Dan Peebles here, who's doing a similar thing here, I would also be telling him to be a little bit more careful on the tyres. And it looks like maybe he has been in the last couple of moments. However, still pushing hard to try and stay with Alexander Outzen, who's looking for another top 5 right now. Would be his 4th for the season if you can get there. That would be series leading, tied.
Yeah, that would be a nice stat to have as you get to the end of round number 6 in this series. Remember, we have 14 rounds in the regular season, so 8 still remaining after this one, including a double header at Iowa. So 2 races in one evening. A lot of points to be had on the 5th of December, where we go to the Bohlins round there. And therefore, we'll get to the end of February knowing the final 15 drivers for the 5-round playoff. So 19 races in total. Definitely a long series, and it has to be a driver winning the championship overall who is consistent and is just able to keep on going through the hard times. And that's something, though, actually, Ewan, that I guess the win for Ericsson kind of discounts results like this, where he's going to have another DNF because he's going to be in the playoffs anyway.
Yeah, he is. It doesn't really matter what happens to Ericsson now. I think that this is somewhat that sometimes it can be a problem of the system when you're in, because it sort of means it's sort of win or bust for those who are already in the playoffs. Think, well, it doesn't matter if I don't, I can throw caution to the wind here, and I'll still be in the playoffs even if I crash. But if it comes off, then I'll win again and I'll get some more playoff points. But obviously you want some incentive for them to try and win again, so it's very difficult to know what to do. But Ericsson already knows he's in, so Ricky as well. Maybe that's why we saw them going so hard at each other earlier on. Ericsson, of course, with an eye to not taking out Fredriksson because he still needs those points, but or certainly did at the time. But you're right. For those guys, there is really no point in conserving and trying to score points. It's really all about whether you can win or not, and make it even more likely you can get through the round of 15.
As they're getting some of the traffic. Oh, the 80 goes around. Was that some contact? It might be, and that's Dahlstrand. I think the 24 tagged the back of him, and Peppers is going to get the run as we come down the back straight. And look at the momentum for the 329. Huge defensive line to the inside for the 24, who was slowed up by the lap traffic. And now around the outside, it's going to be for Dan Paples. He's held it on the track. The 24 trying to squeeze him as they work their way through turns 8 and 9. Space is given. Loads of space is given. That should open the door to Paples to go all the way around the outside. Contact is made though, but he just about gets his way through. Now Ericsson certainly not going to be overly happy with the traffic, but just wasn't able to get past cleanly, and I'm pretty sure tagged the back of the 80.
Yeah, whether there was contact or not, I'm not sure, but it certainly slowed him down. Did for Alexander Outzen there, dropping down to 6th place. But Dan Paples did well to capitalise, of course, on the 24, giving him a lot of room there through the chicanes. Probably too much, really, but he didn't want to get into contact, I suppose. Oh, there's a spin in front of them. That's another lap car, and this is going to be a feature of the race now, by the way. They're working their way through the top 20 now, in some cases. So Marcus Hagman, for example, is a lap down. He's 20th, so there's a lot of lap traffic to come here, and that's going to really interrupt the rest of these battles in the final 10 laps.
Absolutely, and you can really see how much you lose is what I'm trying to say. When you're stuck behind those cars, you lose a lot of time. I mean, they're a bit slow anyway, that's why they're a lap down, and then of course then you have to find your way physically past them. Doing an overtake loses a bit more time, as this battle they've still got Linus Broström in their sights, and Broström is not really looking to get on the podium today. He's 8-9 seconds behind, but they're just a little bit too far to really challenge or even probably make Broström look in the mirrors just yet.
Yeah, it is too far behind for now. I think Broström as well is just holding his tyres back for the moment, and I think he'll finish 4th no matter who prevails in this battle for 5th place, to be honest. And the more they fight, the more likely that becomes as well for the number 71, which would be another top 5 finish for Linus Broström. That would also be series lead tying if he could finish in the top 5 today in 4th place, and it would also take the points lead as well, for what that's worth. There are, as things stand, there is only one repeat winner, so at the moment there's 2 drivers who are going to make it through on points, and at the moment the top 2 in points who haven't won are Broström and Hagman, and Broström making that even more clear now that he is the leader of the points of those who have not won, and indeed of those who have won as well.
It's so funny how these seasons go, because Broström, you almost expect him, to be in the playoffs, but he has to get the win to 100% confirm that. I guess as the season progresses, we'll get more and more multiple time race winners, which will help that situation. But either way, he hasn't got that win yet. It looks like he's not going to be getting it today. And he did have to wait until the doubleheader at North Wilkes last year to get the win. So maybe the doubleheader at Iowa in 4 weeks' time might be what he's got his eye on if history is to repeat itself. But let's see how that one goes. For now, it is his teammate, the 24, who's got a bit of a run coming through the chicane. He's gone to the outside line as you come down towards turn 7. Huge lunge there on the brakes. Pebbles is going to have to defend on the inside. The 24 trying to do the reverse of how he lost or gained that position, I should say. Side by side, they go into turn 8, but actually the 24 has to back out of that one. So the opportunity is still there. The 24, he's got the speed. It was just that one, unfortunately, timed back marker that lost him the speed, but he's still got the tyres on that car.
Yeah, I think he's going to prevail in this battle, but he's got to work his way through. As long as Pebbles holds on to the track position, it might not matter how much his tyres fall off. So I think that will be in his mind right now. He can't really afford to lose the place because track position is pretty important and he might not be able to win it back again. So Pebbles is going to defend for all he's worth here, and Harrison's got to find his way through. He's got plenty of time to do it, of course. Still 8 laps remaining in this race, but as long as Pebbles has the track position, it doesn't really matter how much his tyres fall off. He will just put himself in the way and try and hold on to 5th place from here.
Yeah, certainly that is his plan. Whether that is the execution, we will find out. Lap 41.48 of the Sim Race Sweden 200, round number 6 of the season. Fredriksson is leading by some 10 seconds. He's got this one sorted. He's been able to keep that gap and just ever so slightly extend it since the pit stop, which was some 15 laps ago now. And he just needs to hold on for another 8 laps, including this one, to close out this race. The 55 and the 77 are having a battle at the back end of the top 10. This is P9 for the 55. They've got a huge gap up ahead, so nothing else to worry about apart from what they've got. Although having said that, I think there's a couple of back markers just up ahead of them. The 55 misses the apex, and that seems to be a crucial corner. Maybe a run here for the 77.
Yeah, of course, it defines your run onto the back straight here. The exit of turn 4, even though there's chicane between then and turn 7. Although Helmbro is not close enough to go for it this time round. Don't forget, he's effectively still recovering from a spin down into this corner on the opening lap, I think it was. Qualified in 7th place. He was knocking on the door of a top 10, or top 5, I should say. But he's only 10th for now after reworking his way through the field. He should, I'd imagine, finish ahead of Helm, but it's going to be close. There's going to be a battle to the end between these two. It's just a case of 9th or lower now for them, though, because of the gap to Yokshu, which is still large, despite the 34 struggling a bit more on its tyres.
And let's hope the 80 doesn't get turned once again with some lead lap cars coming past him as he struggles there, lighting up the tyres, leaving 11s there. And actually, this is not good timing for the 55. He's right on the apex there. Can Nicholas Helm get the run he would have wanted? A little bit of slipstream for sure down this front straight. But is it going to be a run for the Sim? No, it's not actually. So Peter Helmbro not able to get the run he would have wanted. They both move to that inside line. I'm sure Helmbro is going to try and get through. Hopefully Dahlstrom sees them both coming, and he does go wide. He allows the 77 to go through too. And that is a nice overtake for the pair of them. But they will have another car. I think that's a 14 of Cannell just up ahead of them.
Yeah, he's struggled today as Thomas Cannell. That's wide from Helm. Oh, very nearly in the grass and the gravel there. I wonder whether he just clipped it on the way towards turn 4. He certainly lost the place to Peter Helmbro, though, who's now up to 9th place, but that was an error from Helm that has really allowed it to happen.
Indeed, and that just shows you how on the limit these cars are. One mistake and you are gone. The 55 not able to slow the car down properly for turn 4, sliding, sort of 4-wheel drifting wide, not able to get the car turned in, and he loses that place down to P number 10 here on lap 43. So the laps really counting down now. Actually, not too long left in this race at all. Just about 20 kilometers remaining for these drivers to get themselves to the end, and they have just a few tricky corners to do before they can get there. You can just see how difficult it is for these cars, moving around all over the place, and really is a massive respect to those who can keep it on the track in a consistent manner, at least for the remainder of this race. So we still have Fredriksson leading from Forster and Holborn. Looks like that podium is pretty sorted, and in behind, looking at the lap times actually, and the drop off, it is it's quite bad for some drivers, but at the front, Fredriksson is really holding his tyres very nicely with Forslund as well. I mean, they're doing 33s, 34s. Everyone else is in the 35s and even some 36s out there.
Yeah, Fredriksson is outclassing the field now with some of his closest rivals gone in that crash about 25 laps ago. Fredriksson has been, since then, the fastest driver on this circuit by quite some distance, and so the gap does now grow to over 10 seconds to Edvin Forslund. Holmboe is not even that close to Forslund either. The podium places, in fact, are very secure because Linus Brostrom's nowhere near getting a top 3 hit today either. So this is a very, very classy drive indeed from Oscar Fredriksson, who's just bringing it home now. I think he's just crossed 6 laps, or just crossed 5 laps to go, excuse me, over the line. So he's really in the closing stretch now in these final 10 minutes of this race. He's under no pressure at all, and very shortly he will be casting his mind forward to the playoffs maybe when they roll around in March.
Kinnell in the background there, a couple of laps down, slide in the 55 as well. So we are getting to that point, about 20 laps, 19, 20 laps on the tyres, and the drivers are starting to get to that point that we saw around the stage break, where all sorts of things started to happen, cars moving around all over the place, and the drivers struggling to keep it on the road. Hopefully we do get to the end, and it looks like, knock on wood, it is going to be a full 200 kilometers of green flag action tonight here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, yeah, 188 or whatever it is. We are a few laps short, but yeah, it is going to be a fully clean and green race, and it is going to be the longest run since a caution, or without a caution, as I say, since that opening run at Talladega as well, that we saw from the end of Kansas to the start of Talladega, I should say. So not seen a caution for a little while, and if we get a nice run into Pocono as well, who knows how far we could go without interruption. But yeah, it's been a good uninterrupted race, and sometimes, I think more often than not, actually, I think road course races work better that way. You can really see the strategies evolve. You can see the tyres dropping away and coming back into the fray again, and drivers benefiting or not from that. I think it's an interesting way of doing it, especially over a sort of distance like this of just under an hour and a half or so. It's a good distance to go fully green. To be honest, you can really see how it evolves, rather than loads of cautions all the time, lots of stop-start, and people not really having to worry about tyre wear.
Oh, absolutely. I do like the... I mean, we actually saw it even on the oval last time out, didn't we? When you get those long green flag runs and then you get the green flag pit stops, it just changes the way of the race quite a lot. And those who are able to hold on to their tyres end up having the advantage at the end as we get to 4 laps remaining here at Indianapolis. And we are seeing these two drivers of Peppels and Aracingligan. Peppels swiggling around there quite a lot, but they're actually not too far behind Brostrom. Initially, I was thinking they'd be fine, but on the previous lap, I mean, it was a second a lap faster for Aracingligan compared to his teammate.
Yeah. This is what happens in the final few laps when the tyres are really dropping away, and there's no other choice like there was in the first part of the race. With 3 laps to go until halfway, they could pit in and think, well, we're going to make it now on fuel, so we might as well pit in a few laps early and get rid of the tyres. But you don't have that luxury here. You've got to stay on whatever you've got here to the very end now, and so that could be providing a few problems for a few drivers. In terms of position changes, I think Aracingligan is most likely to make one here and make a move on Peppels. I still think he is the favourite to prevail here in the fight for 5th place. Again, it's just about finding a way through, because track position is quite something to overcome.
Indeed, Peppels putting his car in the perfect places so far, hasn't made any crazy mistakes, but we saw how easy it was for Nicholas Helm in the 55 a couple of laps ago to be able to slide wide in turn 4 and lose out on that position to Peter Helmbro, which actually he's lost 2 seconds now. So that just shows you once you can get ahead, you can get away. Is the getting ahead part that is a little bit more tricky here today, as it seems to be not an easy one to overtake, as the 24 has just a headlight to the inside, a bit of a look down to the inside of turn 1, but Peppels just keeps it calm, and actually 24 there sliding, loses a car length.
Yes, just the width of one of those fake headlights on the inside of turn number 1, as they are closing on some real lap traffic. How's that going to affect this battle here? Brostrom just had to to get through on a kart. So he's only 3 seconds ahead, but there's only 3 laps to go, including the one they're on at the moment. So I can't see Prostrom being caught, and it looks like he's going to get his 4th top 5 of the season. Will Ericsson get his 4th as well, though? That's the real question here. Round 1 winner, of course, all the way back at Nautical Speedway at the end of August. He's been pretty quiet since then, but a nice top 5 would be another great marker in his season.
Certainly would, and you just have to just keep the results going, I guess, as the season progresses. It's very so unbelievably difficult to get in the top 5 every single race. This is the mistake. It might just be, and it is for the 24. He gets through the 329 of Dan Pepples. He goes too deep, locks up the tyre in towards turn number 12, and that is the moment the 24 needed as we come onto the final couple of laps of the race. It was one mistake. That's all it's going to be for Pepples. He's lost too much time to come back at the 24, and that just shows you how crucial it is to keep the car on the tarmac.
Yeah, he's been taking a different line to Ericsson every time as Dan Pepples in towards turn 12 there. It's such a difficult braking zone because you're coming off turn 11. However, Pepples got it slightly wrong that time, and that's surely a sign of his tyres going away as well. Ericsson is going to take 5th place now. I didn't expect him to be able to make the move quite as easily as that, but look at the way Pepples is trying to catch him again here. He's sliding all over the place. He's taking everything out of the tyres now because he knows he doesn't need them for very much longer, but even so, Ericsson looks a lot more calm, considered, and he's keeping it a lot straighter into these corners, so surely he will be able to hang on to 5th.
Yeah, when the car is like driving on eggshells and it's so sensitive, it's so easy to go over that limit of pushing the tyres. And unfortunately, both on the brakes, on the acceleration, just in the last lap or so, really struggling and losing out. He's just got a lap and a half remaining, 6Ks in this race. Can he find a way past? I don't think so, because the 24 is really pulling away now. He does have some lap traffic up ahead. Is that going to be a bit of an issue? No, they go to the right-hand side, and it's final lap time. Fredriksson, he's miles ahead of these guys. He's already started the final lap as he go for one final tour of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, just under 4 kilometres to go now for Oscar Fredriksson to complete our first caution-free race of the day, or the season I should say, but more importantly to win his first race of the season. Came into this race just 5 points above the 16th place. That's the cut line for the opening part of the playoffs here and in the Oval Series. But if you win a race, then you're locked in to that top 15, and that's exactly what Oscar Fredriksson is about to do. You could say a little bit fortunate that Ericsson, Sawicki and Bohlin were all caught up in a crash about a third of the way through this race, but he's got to be able to capitalise on it, and Fredriksson certainly has done that.
And just to give you some stats for Fredriksson here, he's done 36 races so far. He's only had 1 pole position. He's only had 9 top 5s as well. He's only been in the lead for 2% of the total laps that he's completed in. But as he comes through the final couple of corners, he's going to take his first victory. And what a crucial one it is, because not only is it victory today, but it locks himself into the playoffs, and he can relax for the next 8 races in the regular season. But the Sim Race Sweden 200 goes to their very own driver of Oscar Fredriksson in the 112 machine. Dominant drive as he got to the front, 3 places gained from the grid, and he takes victory today.
And for the first time since Talladega, the stage winner wins the race as well. Oscar Fredriksson taking that stage, of course, at lap 20, as well as the full complement of points at the end of the race as well. He is absolutely delighted with that, and why not as well? He's missed a round already this season, which is partly why he was so far down towards the back end of the field and or so close to that cut-off line. But now he's won a race, he doesn't have to worry about any of that. As he say, he can relax until March, try and pick up some playoff points if he can, and then go again in the round of 15. A dominant victory, our biggest win of the season so far, perhaps unsurprisingly.
Yeah, the road course certainly changed things quite a lot. We saw some familiar names up towards the front, but we also saw some big, heavy crashes. It didn't go to caution, which was quite an interesting one, especially that crash between Ericsson and Sawicki. That was a big one indeed. We had Oliver Bohlin getting involved. There's Nicholas Helm, some minutes off the lead. Crikey, losing a lot of time at the end for a P10 finish for number 55 machine. who surely will gain a few places in the championship. But that was a tough one for the drivers out there. And I mean, to be honest, it was kind of a little bit of what we expected. We remained caution-free. It was difficult to overtake. The cars were sliding around. And to be honest with you, and it was nice to see a bit of a change, just having a road course in the calendar.
Yeah, it was. As I said, part of the way through the race, I think one road race in an oval series of 19 races fits quite well, and so just as well it be here as well, because yeah, that was a good race indeed, and it was difficult for everybody, but that's exactly what you want from a road course race.
Indeed, and it was a solid race for Sim Race Sweden as well. Their very own race, their sponsored race, and they lock out the podium. Fredriksson, Forsund and Holmbaum, all Fords up there as well on that podium. Linus Broström with a solid race, P10 to P4 there inside your top 5 as Aronson, his teammate, follows him in behind. Pebbles and Holmer, they make it, what's that, 5 Sim Race Sweden cars inside your top 10. Then we have the independent driver, Shu, in 8th place, unfortunately dropping down the way. And then we had Helmbro and Helm rounding out the top 10. Uvenen, Alto, Lundberg, Ericsson, Motin, Tidemo, Skoglund, Gantz, Hugman and Schott inside your top 20. And of course, then we have a whole load of other drivers who unfortunately quite a few laps down. In P21 was Marcus Stiller from the back of the field, getting up some 10 places. Broström, Dahlström, Pfeffer, Wang, Wildeberg, Knell, all drivers quite a few laps down, but still going on. And then we had some DNFs. We had Bohlin, Tyr, Ericsson, of course, and he had the crash with Dominic Sweeky, 30 laps down. Ericsson did have the fastest lap there on lap number 2, so he had some pace today, and unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. Let's go into some interviews, though, and let's drag in 112 for Sim Race Sweden. Oscar, you had a very good start to the race. You managed to get yourself up into that battle with Dominic and Jesper. First of all, just talk us through that battle with how you got from 3rd place up to 1st.
Yeah, that was really intense. I was just trying to stay with them. I knew they probably had better pace than me, so I was trying to manage the tires. They overheat really easily in this car, so I was taking it easy, just cruising behind, and managed to get some lucky positions with them battling that hard.
Of course, and I assume you would have had some communication with Jesper during the race. Was he struggling there around sort of, the lap 15 mark of the race? He started to slow down quite a lot, and even when you got into 2nd place, he seemed to be not going at full speed.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. We have to look at the data after maybe, but he maybe pushed his tires a bit too hard, or he was trying to back Dominic into me. I wasn't, don't know. We weren't talking about it in that way, but we were trying to coordinate whoever was fastest and had the freshest tires, or the best temperature in the tires, I should say, when we were with the 1-2, just trying to pull away from Dominic there. Yeah, really tricky one on the pace with the tires.
Absolutely. And in the end, I'm sure you saw their big crash in the background through turn 11. It was pretty calm after that. How did you feel having this car on a road course? Obviously, it's very different to the ovals. Just how did you find it turning right and having to balance that rear end? It seemed very slidey today.
Yeah, it felt good. I'm a road course guy mainly, so I knew I probably had a good chance for a good result here. And knew the tires overheating especially would be a big issue, so was trying to manage, and when I saw them crash behind, felt bad for Jesper, of course, since he's my teammate and we're in the same team in the team championship, but yeah, I was just trying to manage the tires after that, keep the temperature low and not make any mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is your first victory in the Oval Series, so congratulations for that. Hopefully that feels good. So what are you going to focus on now? You're into the playoffs, confirmed, but you've still got 8 more races. Are we just going to try and get as many Sim Race Sweden cars up there to be in the round of 15?
Yeah, I think the main focus now is the team's championship. We're leading it, at least going into this race, I think. Hopefully we keep the lead, and all the 3 of us in the top team in the championship is in the playoffs. So try and get points for the team and help as many Sim Race Sweden cars as possible to get into the playoffs, of course.
Absolutely. That was a great drive today, Oscar. Congratulations, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you soon.
Thank you.
And then we will bring in the number 27 of Edvin Forsland, who had a very good race today. It was, of course, tricky out there in your number 27 machine. How was that race for you? It was certainly quite tough, especially around the pit stops when the tires were getting old.
Yeah, like I made quite a lot of mistakes today, but wasn't particularly usual or no. I had when you said the old tire, I'm assuming when you said that maybe when I spun round on my in lap, or
yeah. So it was quite tricky conditions out there. How are you finding it, especially just those laps before the pit stop and even at the end of the race when the car was moving around loads?
I mean, I didn't find it particularly difficult. The moments I had was it's quite funny, to be fair. My cat kept tugging at my headphone wire every other lap, so I had to like push her away, you know. But so I made a few mistakes because of that, and also
I was going to say, around the pit stop, you came out behind Cedric, your teammate. Then you managed to get through. How sort of scary was that going past your teammate? Or was it quite coordinated?
We coordinated it. So he basically, I asked him if he felt that he could go quicker, and he just told me to go. So I. Because at that point, I felt I had a lot more pace. I wanted to push it, so. But I ended up behind Linus and Cedric because of my mistake on my end lap either way. So.
And I was gonna so last question is this is a good result for you, obviously up into second place. You struggled a bit in the championship this season. You've been involved in a few incidents which have hindered your results. Do you think you can sneak a win when we go back to the ovals? Do you think you can sort of lock yourself into the playoffs that way?
I mean, I'm certainly hopeful, and I keep improving more and more as the more I drive it, so I don't see why not. But I think I would require a lot of luck. To be honest, I think my best chance to get a win would have been tonight, because I felt I had very good pace. It's just, I made mistakes and just wasn't consistent enough.
Yeah, certainly not easy out there today, but good job on your second place, and hopefully we'll speak to you again with maybe another podium later this season.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries, and we'll bring in Linus Broström of the number 71, finishing in fourth place. Of course, one of the main admins here at the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan as well, putting in a lot of effort behind the scenes. But Linus, not quite a podium today, but up from a difficult starting position. You must be fairly happy with that.
Well, considering we're turning right, and I wasn't even expecting to finish in the top 10, I'd say I'm really happy with this. I mean, 6 races into the season, I'm the championship leader, and the road course is my tied best result. That was not on my bingo card anytime soon. So I'm thrilled with this result. Obviously, it came because of some guys in front being taken out, but you know.
Absolutely, it all helps
in the results. So.
Yeah, and it's actually good to speak to you, so far this season, because you may not have got the results you wanted, but you're still leading the championship in terms of the points, and obviously that will be continuing on after this race as well. So either way, you're probably quite good to get into playoffs, but are you really itching to get that win, though?
Well, I've not even had a top 3 yet. I might have been on the way to get it at Homestead before I screw that one up, but... yeah, at some point I'll hopefully get it. We're coming up to a short track soon where I'm pretty good. And we had some great teamwork at Talladega, so you never know what's going to happen at Daytona later on. But I think there are a few tracks where I have a good chance. I just need to put it together. I've had some weird strategies to try and work it out, and I had too much time to practice, so that might be a reason. But I think I'm going to have a few chances, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking to the future, we go to Pocono in a couple of weeks' time, the tricky triangle. What do you think your chances are there?
I've had a win there before, at least one. So
this is obviously a different car, but I still think my chances are going to be pretty good as long as I can practice as much as I want to. I think I'm definitely going to be running up front there.
Absolutely, and there's a solid race for you today, so thanks for speaking to us, and well, hopefully we'll speak to you soon with a proper podium finish.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Absolutely, as that concludes the interviews for this 6th round of the season. It was, of course, the Sim Race Sweden 200, and they managed to take the victory with Oscar Fredriksson in the 112 machine. As I mentioned, a couple of weeks' time, we go to Pocono Raceway, the tricky triangle, and we can't wait to see what is going to happen with that one. Nice, big, open, long straightaways, and 3 very interesting corners separating them. And that is in just 2 weeks' time on the 21st of November. But we will be back next week as we go to the Red Bull Ring for the IndyCar series as well. It's been myself, Cameron Roger, Ewan O'Leary alongside me, and Hugo Luis on the production of this RaceSpotTV broadcast that saw the 112 of Fredriksson take his first victory of this series and lock himself into the playoffs. But until a couple of weeks' time in Pocono, we wish you a very warm goodbye.